showtime.
It's time for that radio show everyone loves.
Do not attempt to change the station. Just listen, and we'll keep broadcasting.
It's time to begin the show.
103.9 LI News Radio presents Your Island, the very best in talk radio, with your host, Tom Schiliro.
And once again, welcome back. 1 hour down, one to go. This segment of our program is being brought to you by the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association. That's right, folks. The PBA serves to support law enforcement, participate in special events and programs, all designed to help and protect our community. They care about you and keeping us all safe. From the anti-drinking and driving campaigns to protecting our children with education on the Megan's Law, the PBA promotes a great relationship between the police and the people it's sworn to serve. Suffolk County is one of the safest counties in the country, and the PBA takes pride in its strong belief in our security. They have honored our fallen heroes and contribute greatly to our suburban way of life. Need to know more? Go right to that website, www.suffolkcountypba.org. Noel DiGirolamo, President. Now, I opened the program talking about the horrific events going back to 1971 with the murders of Joseph Piagentini and Waverly Jones, both of New York City's finest, and I could remember those days and how horrific that was, the attack on police and what was in fact taking place. And so the individuals, Herman Bell and Anthony Bottoms, they were arrested. Again, horrible people, given 25 to life. Well, lo and behold, sometime, I think it was 2020, they were released, and we were speaking out against it and everything what we needed to do. Now, yesterday there was an event because it seems like Anthony Bottom is going to be invited to a taxpayer organization, Suny Brockport, to glorify him or whatever the heck they were going to do with some sort of a far left wing type of symposium that they were going to do. And again, our great police officers, and not just the police, but it's the community coming together. When I introduced this subject, so many of you called on and saying, how could this be? Well, there was that event, and our great PBA, as you know, we talk about them all the time, Lou Civello, he's the second VP of the Suffolk County PBA. He was at the event yesterday. We're going to get his impressions of it, and I understand he spoke very passionately. This is what I hear, because it exists from inside the heart. So let me bring Lou in here to this discussion. Lou Civello, how are you, my friend?
Tom, doing very well. Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
You know, that event that took place yesterday, we had introduced the subject last week when it was announced that Suny Brockport was going to do something like this. And I'll tell you, so many people called in. So many people, they can't believe. And I even get a little tongue-tied when I talk about this, because it's like, I can't believe this. You can't believe that this, first of all, this person would have been dead in 16 other states in terms of the capital punishment. He would have been executed. But that's not how New York State rolls. But you would hope there would have been a life imprisonment, which is what his wife was speaking about, Diane Piagentini. It didn't roll that way. So what happens? They release him. So you folks get together, all the great PBAs get together, police organizations, community leaders, elected officials. It was a consortium of the good folks, the people who are on the right side of this. So tell us what that experience was like, because I saw a little bit of it on the news.
So absolutely, it was surreal that we even had to be there, and that we're even talking about this happening. It really is. I keep waiting for the Twilight Zone theme to sort of play in the background with some of these things that are happening day in and day out here in New York State. I mean, it was an honor to stand next to Diane Piagentini and stand up against this atrocity that is happening. Both myself, other union leaders, both from New York City, Nassau County, really from across the state, elected officials from both sides of the aisle stood there in solidarity to really speak out and demand that this be canceled. It is absolute travesty what is happening and what's going on here. They are glorifying this individual. They are honoring him. They are having him speak to impressionable students. And quite frankly, they're lying. This is being portrayed in a way where this person, they called him a political prisoner. I know. He brutally assassinated, lured two police officers to their death, and mercilessly pumped bullets into the chest of one, Officer Piagentini as he begged for his life.
Yeah, I can remember that, and you just think about it and say it's absolutely amazing. And you're right, I saw that phrase, political prisoner. I mean, you talk about taking the news and twisting it. These were cold-blooded cop killers that should have been executed. But again, that's another story, and I don't want to talk about that. But in the meantime, I couldn't imagine just what Diane Piagentini, after all these years, still speaking out. It's got to be about 51 years ago that she's speaking and still feeling the pain. And I wish people would see that, or people that are of that ilk that feel that this is something that college students need to see or speak to him and so on. And they even allow that this Anthony Bottom to make a statement that the police should not dictate First Amendment rights. This is a slap in the face to every common sense middle class American that believes in law enforcement. And I know how people feel about the Suffolk Police Department here in Suffolk County, and what they feel about the men and women and the great work that they do. And then to see something like this happen. Share with us a little bit of what you said to that group. I mean, it had to be a tough thing to do. I mean, in the sense that to get those emotions out, because I would have been stuttering.
It certainly was a tough thing, but standing next to Diane Piagentini and her courage, totally inspiring, much tougher for her than any of us to have to relive this and go through this. My words yesterday really were just to make people aware on what's going on, because I really feel that this goes beyond Brockport. We have institutions in this state that morals are so perverse at this point. We have a cop killer up in Ithaca that was not only released from prison, but they sat him on a panel to write police policy, to reform the police department up in Ithaca. And in their wisdom, with this individual on their police panel, they came up with the idea of dissolving the police department until there was some significant pushback. They were going to actually do away with the police. So this is where we're at right now, where cop killers are being honored. They're being asked to speak at colleges. They're being put on police reform boards to help dictate police policy. It is totally surreal, and it's not going to stop until the good people of this state say enough. We have to draw the line somewhere, and this is a pretty important place to draw the line. This individual should not be speaking to college students, and this has nothing to do with the First Amendment. As the president of the New York City PBA, Pat Lynch, eloquently put yesterday, we support his right to speak from behind bars, which is where he belongs. This individual shouldn't be invited to a college. He shouldn't be given a bully pulpit. You want to speak and exercise your First Amendment, that's great. That has nothing to do with, not only are they inviting this person in, they're paying him. He has effectively monetized his crime. He is profiting from his crime. And he found a willing customer in Suny Brockport. Think about that.
And I think it behooves all of us to take the leadership of our PBAs and our police organizations. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm speaking to Lou Civello, second Vice President of Suffolk County PBA, was at the event yesterday to speak on behalf of law enforcement. And I think it behooves all of us to somehow get involved in this, because I agree with everything that you said. I mean, when it comes right down to, it's not just this event, although this event to me is horrific symbolism of the nonsense that we see going out the state legislature with some members of the Assembly and the State Senate over there in New York City that want to still continue the defunding of the police. Lou, you and I both know people don't want to defund the police. People want to see more police officers. People want a stop in the rising crime rates, which falls right on the desk of elected officials in Albany. And again, unless we somehow speak out against that, it's going to continue to get worse. This was a legislative made issue when they passed all of these laws and these bail reform laws and so on, and went after the police department, essentially releasing or doing away with Civil Service Law 50A, and how important that was for the average man and woman to perform their job in terms of law enforcement. All of that taking place. And now this to me is just a knife that they stick into a wound and becomes like the worst part of it. So if you had to say, what could the public do? We need to, either you're right or you're wrong. But Lou, I'm going to tell you this. This side is right. Your side is right. I can't see another side to this. I try, but I can't. Lou?
Right. It's indefensible. And the fact that they try to defend it makes it so much worse. Mm-hmm. This is a simple case of you reap what you sow. And you're right, Tom. This goes back. They've been pushing this woke radical ideology for years now. It goes back to Cuomo. It goes back to him appointing these liberal parole boards that were inclined to let violent criminals back out on our streets. And in this case, is exactly what they did. And now we're elevating these people, honoring them. We're going back, rewriting history, making them heroes. And in fact, you are certainly reaping what you sow right now, as we see with the rampant crime across our state.
Yeah.
You know, you're at the point where you can't get on the LIRR and go into New York City and enjoy a night out with your family because you're going to be afraid to be a victim of crime. We see the violent crime day in and day out. We see it out here in Suffolk County. You see it upstate New York. And it really falls on the governor. I mean, this is just another case where we need leadership, and leadership is totally absent. You know, she has lots of tools in her tools box that she could apply some pressure to Suny Brockport and get this thing called off. She refuses to do it. And in fact, president of PCNY, Police Conference of New York, it's an association of PBAs from across the state, Richard Wells, sent her a letter, you know, requesting that she intervene here. To my knowledge, we didn't even get a response.
I think people need to know what you're saying right now, because now I'm getting more incensed. I was mad before. I'm worse right now for a number of reasons, and one of the reasons is the fact that they don't see it. And it's the same thing with Governor Hochul. Well, I don't see how bail reform is going. If we reform the reform and we give more discretion to the judges, it's going to reduce any sort of crime. And the statistics are all in just the opposite of that. Now, looking at, again, I look at this issue that you folks so eloquently articulated yesterday in Deer Park as symbolism of a problem that exists in this state. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I got to know a little bit what's going down there in Florida with Governor DeSantis would never allow this. Never. You know, and it's just a matter of a political ideology. And unfortunately, this is an issue that doesn't, I look at it this way. Nothing transcends politics. So we've got to look at the people that are making these decisions. We have to look at Kathy Hochul and say, you know, where are you with this? How could you possibly allow this to happen? And I agree, it is not a First Amendment issue whatsoever. It is an issue of decency and what is right. And the fact that our communities and the great folks of Suffolk County and all the other 61 counties in New York State stand behind our police. That's a fact. And, you know, again, Lou, you guys have a tough job in getting that information out, but utilizing anything available to you is important to do. What do you suggest to the folks? Is it just a matter of calling your state senators, the state assembly, whether it's this issue or other issues?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have on our social media, there is a change.org form that you can fill out that will express your support for us and, you know, demand that this be canceled. And I would say ultimately, you know, like many of these things, it's going to be settled at the ballot box. Yeah. It really goes beyond Suny Brockport, you know, where we can't even get a response from Governor Hochul. Lee Zeldin, our great congressman, stood right next to us yesterday and expressed, you know, his absolute support for the family and demanded that something be done about this. So it just shows you the difference there. And your vote really does matter. And I think I think sometimes in New York we get caught up in that it's sort of a very heavily Democratic state, and some of us may think, well, why even bother voting? Well, that is not the case this time around. I mean, and people are rightly outraged, and I think this is going to come down this November to just a few votes. And if you're not registered to vote, you need to register to vote. You need to express your outrage. Get on social media. You know, send that email, fill out that form, demand this be canceled, and at the same time, be ready to vote in November, because it's the only way any of this is going to, whether it's bail reform or some of the insanity that we're seeing with a Copkiller being honored here. And I would like to give a little shout out to some of our education professionals that stood with us yesterday. We had some teacher unions that came out yesterday, specifically Middle Country teachers stood there with us, and could not have been more proud to have them by our side, because I really, really think it shows that, you know, this is not just a law enforcement issue. You know, this is just, again, like you said, Tom, a human decency issue. No one who had was a victim of a crime like this and their family member killed should have to be put through this. Should have the person that killed them honored at a college. You know. And so we need to stand together.
What again, a terrible thing to do to the family. I guess a side word. The morale of your membership. You know, again, I get a great opportunity to talk to many of the men and women of the police department, and they all say the same to me. They say, Tom, the people here in Suffolk County support us, and I'm just wondering if you're hearing the same thing. Obviously, a lot more closer to it than I am because of the efforts of what the PBA is doing and what a lot of our police organizations are doing in getting the word out there, and how important safety and security is the number one issue. You could talk about inflation, you could talk about a border crisis. As far as I'm concerned, safety and security, front line being the men and women of our police departments. In terms of what is the rank and file membership feeling right now, Lou?
Yeah, we enjoy tremendous support from the Suffolk County residents. We are so grateful for them, and we're grateful for many of the local elected officials that we have here in Suffolk County who are tremendously supportive of us as well. And I think you're exactly right, Tom. People come to Long Island, you move to the suburbs, and you raise your family here because you want safe streets, you want good schools. And I think that is, why it's incredibly important that we support our police, we support our teachers, and I find from the rank and file that the people of Suffolk County are tremendously supportive of us, and we are tremendously grateful for that.
And before I let you go, again, going back to yesterday's event, you think you had an impact? Because I think you did, but I want to see what you have to say about it.
I hope so. I know it's been changed from an in-person event to an online event. The stated reason they gave to that was that they didn't want to traumatize the kids with police officers showing up, which is, again, unbelievable to me. But I think that shows that we are making headway. I think they're feeling the pressure. And I think the more people that know about this, the more pressure they're going to feel. And I'm still hopeful that they will actually do the right thing and cancel it entirely.
Well, and I think the pressure's on. And I think it started yesterday. And, of course, the conversations that we had earlier on. I know members of the state Senate held a press conference also onto how this event. And I think the mere fact that it at least got canceled a little bit, but it's got to be canceled 100%. It
does. Yeah. Or instead of canceling it, like was brought up yesterday, invite Mrs. Piagentini to speak. Yeah. If college students should be hearing from anyone, it should be her. Cancel this individual and have her up to that college to speak to college students, and that would be the right thing to do.
Right. I think 100%. Once again, Lou Civello, thank you for the work that you do, and we got to keep this all up. Once again, Lou Civello, second VP of the Suffolk County PBA, spoke at the event yesterday. A lot of impact, a lot of talking about it today. Lou, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Tom. Thank you.
Okay, before we take a break, we could take a phone call on this or two, 631-451-1039. Any thoughts on the mere fact that a publicly funded institution such as a SUNY college, and we're talking about SUNY over there at Brockport, would even think about doing something like this? And it also, I think it emanated from a particular professor who wanted to talk about political prisoners in America. I wish people that had that philosophy would do some traveling and go to countries where their rights are stifled into the point that if you look the wrong way, you could be brought in for questioning, and the whole right to protest or to do anything like that. But, to pick on the United States of America, which has more freedoms and liberty than any other country on earth. And that's a fact. You could dispute it. And you could say, well, this country, that country. But if you look at countries like North Korea, you look at countries like the Russian Federation, which is going through a mess right now, trying to figure out where their country stands with the killing of innocent civilians over in Ukraine, and try to make a judgment to that. And the fact that they will lock up 11 or 12,000 people. They were in prison Americans. They were Americans that are being held in Russia right now under false charges, and the fact there are no rights there or anything of that nature. And you look at the freedoms and liberties in this country, and then you want to put on a symposium at a publicly funded college on political prisoners in America. Absolutely makes you sick. Let's take one call before we take the break. Mike over there in Rocky Point, give me about a minute and a half, my friend.
How you doing, Tom?
Hi.
I'll be quicker than that. Who is this guy that's going to do the speaking?
His name is Anthony Bottom. He was one of the individuals arrested with Herman Bell in the assassination of Joseph Piagentini and Waverly Jones, NYPD officers in New York City. You may remember that they were part of the Black Liberation Army that essentially declared war on law enforcement. That was 1971. That's who he is.
Okay, my next question is, what makes him a political prisoner?
Well, some Yeah, he's a murderer. He's a cop killer. You're right, Mike. I mean, this is what gets all of us, and I'm sure you also, what makes him a political prisoner. Well, I guess in some obscure thought, in some obscure mind, they subvert the truth, and they'll come up with the phrase political prisoner. And somehow that sells on a college campus. This is wrong. And by the way, a taxpayer-funded college campus, which you have no place.
When you hear about this stuff, not only should you tell us the guy's name, whoever the criminal is that's doing the talking on these campuses, but the people that brought him in, because I want to know what kind of mind brings these people onto a campus. Talk about traumatizing kids.
Yeah. Huh? And I agree with Lou Civello that Diane Piangentini, the widow of Joseph Piangentini, she should be the one that speaks there. And so they get to see what it was like for the last 50 years in living without her husband and raising the kids on her own. That's what people should hear about. Mike, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate it. Right. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, let's talk to our Suffolk County Controller, John Kennedy, coming up. We'll be right back.